to paint watercolours, so if you're ready, we'll get started and we'll paint this one. Hi everyone, welcome back to Painting Watercolours with me, Colin. I'll give you a quick run round of the colours. We have raw sienna, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, brown madder, quinacridone magenta, viridian green, and we have a little bit of neutral tint. I've left a thin film of water on the paper just to manoeuvre the paint round, and I'm just dropping in a bit of viridian green just for a little bit of colour. You won't see much of this. Some colour in the sea. I dried off the area of the sails and the boats just to keep it relatively clean, and I then patted the sails dry and then just re-wet around them, and I'm just adding a little bit of raw sienna into the sky, creating some nice shapes. Bring this through the boat. Doesn't matter if it goes into the sails a bit, to be honest with you, because they are going to be quite dark, these sails, but I do want to keep it bright. The original photograph had a very grey sky, but we're going to liven this up. So into this I'm just going to drop a little bit of the quinacridone magenta. It's very strong, so I have to be a bit careful with it, just to liven it up. And I'm just dancing little bits of it in. Very pale. I'm going to take some cobalt blue and some burnt sienna. I'm going to grey it. With the film of water being on the paper, you'll have plenty of time to manoeuvre the paint where you want it. Just bringing it to meet the other colours. Bring a little bit into the sea. Just a hint of a horizon line. Taking that again. Tiny touch of magenta in it. A bit more burnt sienna. Again, I'm just creating some shapes, just creating an interesting sky. Always remember it will dry lighter, and if it looks right when it's wet, it means it'll be wrong when it dries. A little in here, and maybe a little bit more. Once again, bring a little bit into the sea. And then, while I have that like that, I'm just going to take a kitchen towel. Yeah, and I've done this before, it's quite an easy way to put some interest into your sky, and just rock this round the way you want the direction and the formation of some cloud. It just removes a little paint and creates a little more interest. And then I'm going to leave that to dry. Okay, the sky is dry, paper is still damp, but dry enough to carry on painting. I re-wet this sail and this sail. I hope you can see how light the sky has dried, and you have to take that into account when you are painting one of these, is that watercolour does dry lighter. So I'm going to take some brown madder. I'm just going to add this in, just a coat, and with re-wetting the sail it allows you to manipulate the paint round very, very easily, but you must take into account with the extra water of how much it's going to dry or how light it's going to dry. Let's just get a coat of that on first. Brown madder is a useful colour to have for sails. There are quite a few sailing ships that have these colours. But this is just a suggested palette. I mean, you could use your own colours, your own reds. You could make these sails yellow, blue, white. I'll brown that a little bit as we start to put the shadows in. I don't want too much water in it. I'm just going to add some neutral tint just to take that down slightly, and that looks okay. Come back to my first one, quite dark along here. This will be the first set of shadow, always saving the darkest till last. Just softening it up and round with a damp brush. See, with the sails being wet, you have plenty of time to do this. Just a little dark around here. That sail comes up here. I must have missed that, but it's quite dark there, so we can fill that in. Dark along the bottom here. We will wait for this to dry quite a bit before we put the full shadows on. And I'm just putting some directional folds in this sail, and I'm going to allow them to run. You'll still see them. I'm going to add a little bit more neutral tint to this, and then I think what we can do while we're waiting for the sails to dry off a bit is we can add a tiny bit of cobalt blue to this side of this ship. This is straightforward neutral. You can see where the masking fluid is. And I just want to touch, see how it just touches that damp cobalt blue. I'm just going to allow that to drift around along this side here. I'll take a little bit out. Just create a little bit of sheen on the boat. That's a damp brush I'm using. I'm just dipping it in the water and then just removing the excess off it. With that you can create a light patch. Put the waterline in. There's a little bit of red on the keel there. A little bit of murkiness on this tiny side here, just like a shadow. Going back to the darker colour we mixed up, the sail is still quite wet, so we'll see how we go. I'm using a detail brush for this. We add our deeper shadow in. Pulling this round a little. Just dropping it in along that edge, bottom edge. Just gives you a little well of paint that you can use to pull up. Creating streaks. It's quite dark around here. As the the sail is lighter. We'll make the sail next to it darker. For those of you that draw, it's almost like shading with a pencil. Okay, don't do any more to that. And then I'm going to let that dry. Now that that's dry, I'm just going to put in the rest of the sails. Just setting off with the brown madder again. I have re-wet the sails, negatively painting around the prow of the ship. This one is slightly darker than the front one. Yeah, one under here as well. You can see how that water helps you move the paint round. Just tidying up the edges. Take some of that brown madder, just add it into the centre. Just to darken it. This sail is throwing a shadow on this side here. Pulling some of this across in a curl, even though it's wet, to leave a little lighter streak here. It's catching the light. This corner's in a deep shadow. Just going to mix up the deeper colour for the last shade. I'm going to let that dry off a minute before I put that on. Should get the right depth. That's about right. I'm going to put some burnt sienna into the cobalt blue. I'm going to add a little bit of the quinacridone magenta. We'll begin to put a horizon line in, always trying to keep it level, reasonably straight, I think. I'm going to take some of that and add it into the green as we come forward. Take a damp brush and just feather out some of these towards the edge. So I'm just washing out the detail on the sides, just like I said before, the main events, the boat. See if I've got this dark enough. Just running along the bottom and the edge and just allowing it to drift up. Darker behind the back of this sail. Again, just putting a few curl lines in. Then I'm going to leave that to dry. Welcome back. Now it's all dry. I did put the masts in and all the booms and the rigging in whilst it was off camera, because this can be a bit fiddly and take some time. But I'll tell you what I did. I just put some burnt sienna all the way down the masts and the poles, and I just dropped in some neutral tint to create some shadow and bits of things that the rigging is hanging off. And then I just reinstated the rigging that I'd drawn in earlier. All the rigging's not on it, can't see a great deal of it, but it just gives you the general impression of what you're painting. And I just want to put some white tips on some of these waves with some white paint, white titanium paint. This is Magello Mission Gold titanium white paint. This is about the only one that I know that covers really well, and it will save you reserving tons of white with masking fluid, which is one of my bugbears. I don't particularly like it, but I have to use it sometimes. I also put the line in here with some burnt sienna as well, and then I just run the shadow down it with some neutral tint, just to give it a little bit of depth and dimension, and I put some planking lines in with a pencil. All a bit fiddly and a bit time consuming, but if you want to paint this one, you can copy it. It should be quite clear, all being well. So put a little movement in here. I want to put 3 sailors on, a couple of flips of the brush. I'm just dragging this down. Just create a bit of movement and some seagulls in the sky. Getting very close to finishing now. And I think I'm going to call that one finished. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. If you have, please click the like button or give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And this is where you get to sign it, to put a mount around it and frame it. So until next time, thank you very much for watching.